Hello, Psychologies readers, followers and friends. I'm Mary Fenwick. I write the the Agony Aunt column for Psychologies magazine. So once a month I get to answer readers' questions, and I also am on Instagram once a week on a Tuesday, 5:30 on a Tuesday evening for weekly wisdom. And the idea of these, I'll be here for half an hour, and it's kind of sharing our wisdom, basically. Not just my wisdom. I certainly have not got a monopoly on wisdom, but sharing wisdom amongst us on a topic of the day. Hello. That's Jenny, I think, meditation courses. Is that right? Oh, lovely to start seeing some familiar names here. So this week's topic is who has changed jobs or changed their job or changed what they're doing or looking for new work or different work this year, 2020. Hi Ainsley, hi Wendy, hi Will, hi Ems, hi Sue, and hi Kelly. Jenny, good, brilliant. That was a little test of my memory. Solo somebody. Hi Tracy. Marvellous Midlife. Hello. Great to see you. My name is Mary Fenwick. I write the Agony Aunt column for Psychologies magazine, and once a week I'm here doing weekly wisdom on the Psychologies magazine Instagram page. So that we're going to share our wisdom on the subject of what is working for you, or what are you thinking of exploring in terms of work. And this is prompted by the fact that today I did a workshop for the Society of Authors, which was called Reset and Rethink Your Creative Career in Midlife, because the Society of Authors has got Iden is saying greetings from Girasun, I think. Words by Sally Robinson. I know a Sally Robinson. I wonder if it's the same one I know. Solange joined. So the point was the Society of Authors has got 11,000 members who are people who write books, illustrate books, translate books, edit books, everything to do with being an author. And this year has really hit them hard because so many of their sources of income with speaking and book tours and events have changed or, just been cancelled, or the whole rug has been pulled out from underneath people's feet. So there's a lot of members of the Society of Authors who are thinking about how to reset their creative careers. And unfortunately, as some of you will know, I'm a bit of an expert in I'm trying to think of a polite, when the mud hits the fan. I'm a bit of an expert in rebuilding life after personal disaster, let's say. So I was sharing that with them today, talking about the fact that even though I write an advice column, I am not really a big believer in giving advice, and I'm certainly not going to advise anybody to do what I did. There's a whole thing about I did this, you should do it too, it will work for you. I don't really believe in that, and I certainly wouldn't advise anybody to do what I did, which is have an slightly unfeasible number of children and lose both your husband and your job at the start of a global recession, which was me in 2008. Jenny's saying, lovely to see you again. I've retrained this year as a meditation teacher. I run a business with my husband. I'm 40 years old now and launching my new business. Well, that's so lovely. I don't know if you're saying that like 40 years old to be launching a new business, because it doesn't seem it to me. And somebody today on the call was saying they're 60 and are they too old? And I just think more and more that is completely irrelevant. So I would really like to know what is working for people in terms of resetting or rethinking or retraining or rejigging, or as some people like to say, pivoting their careers this year. Smiley face from Jenny. It's lovely to see you again. Well done. The wisdom that I also want to share is an academic who I'm a big fan of, actually, Herminia Ibarra, and she writes about career transition, and I really like her kind of angle on it. Let's have a look. Marvellous midlife. I'm a coach and have just left an unhappy marriage at 51 and drive to France for a new life. Wow, that sounds so exciting. I bet you'll have loads of people wanting to know about that journey, that literal and metaphorical journey. One Pearl Row Explore says, I left my job to set up my HR business in the last recession. I know, yeah. Well, I think there are some statistics about how many businesses do start in a recession and how many women are setting up businesses. So I wanted to share, there's a piece of writing that Herminia Ibarra did earlier this year about what works to think about career transition during a recession, and a lot of it seemed particularly relevant to the creative group that I was speaking to, and there were 5 things. One Pearl Row Explore says, I love Herminia's work. Not sure if I spelled that correctly. You're completely correct. That is it. Yeah. I think she's terrific because it's all research-based. She's been at INSEAD, the French business school, and she's now, I think, at London Business School. So it's research-based, but it's also very human, and it's also very creative, and very realistic, I think. All the theory in the world is actually not probably what is going to get you a job. So Marvellous Midlife says, for me, it's about being very present and being in the now. That would be one of them, actually. So I think I ended up talking about Herminia Ibarra's work. The piece that she wrote earlier this year had 5 things. And then apart from that, I was also talking about having the attitude of rational optimism, which is the work of Sean Achor, Achor. And he's written a book and TED Talk and all that on called The Happiness Advantage. And then I also talked about The Power of Positive Emotion by Barbara Fredrickson. And I've talked about that on this forum before, which is how the positive emotions like joy, contentment, serenity, interest, amusement, awe, AWE, hope, love, I've just forgotten another couple, but there's 10. Those positive emotions have an effect which is called broaden and build. They expand the range of possibilities that you can see, and they help you build a more effective vision of the future. I've actually been awake since 4 o'clock this morning because I love running workshops, but I also, I'm going to say I get a bit nervous about them. I was actually so excited about doing this one today, and as some of you will know, feeling excited and feeling nervous are quite similar. So I was awake since 4 o'clock this morning with this workshop going round and round in my head. And then when you finish the workshop, you're kind of a bit buzzing. I'd been online for an hour and a half. We had 100 people, loads of questions, lots of engagement, and it's quite a creative thing to be doing. And I'm so tired that my eyes feel sore and itchy, and I feel very conscious that obviously when you do these lives, you have to look at yourself, and in my opinion, I'm not looking the best. I'm kind of itchy on my neck. Anyway, Soothed by Nature. Soothed by Nature says, you're not alone. I get nervous about things like that too. Marvellous Midlife says, well done. Jenny says, oh yes, I'm running my first course on Sunday. I have people booked on. That's so exciting. Fantastic. Well done, Jenny. That's great. And meditation is so really life-changing. In fact, a few years ago I did the Mindfulness-Based stress reduction, and I do, although ironically, I don't know, in the middle of the night last night, this is quite a me thing to do, I chose to do a meditation on the subject of thinking about death, which, to be honest, I think about death quite a bit, and this meditation was all about how we think of death as a kind of the end of life, whereas this meditation was on the subject of death is inextricably mixed with birth. You know, fundamentally, you have birth, and at the other end you have death. And I did a 30-minute meditation on the subject of death in the middle of the night in Berlin at the moment. Mary Connected Resilience says you've enjoyed it, you are glowing. Oh, that's so lovely. Thank you very much. This is 50 says you look great. Oh, thank you. I'll talk about my insecurities more often if I'm going to get nice feedback like that. Thank you. So I want to make sure that I don't forget to pass on the actual content that I shared today. In fact, I think the Society of Authors is going to share that workshop publicly, which I said they could. It's all stuff that I'm using other people's material. I don't want to be... I want to give them credit for it, but there's no benefit to me in trying to... I don't know, keep it to myself or something. Curious Creative Club, hi, hello, fellow Psychologies person. So today I'm talking about what is working, what might work, what you're thinking of doing in terms of reset or rethinking your career this year. And as I've said, I've unfortunately got quite a bit of experience in doing this, but I would not suggest necessarily following in my footsteps. Actually, there is a little sidebar which I'll mention that I don't often talk about. In the last 12 years since my husband died, apart from the writing and the coaching, I spent 5 years of that with a gig that took up 3 days a week, so 60% of my time was working for different educational bodies, so 2 different universities and 1 school, as a fundraiser, basically, connecting with alumni, connecting them with the stories that are still going on, connecting academics, a fundraising gig. And what I found there was that my skill and interest in storytelling was something that works well in fundraising as well. So there we go. Okay, I'm going to make sure I get through this because, as usual, I'm having little battery problems with my phone. I've talked about this before. So the 7 tips that I shared today. Number 1 was embarking on your thinking process with an attitude that is called rational optimism. Sometimes it will be called realistic optimism, and sometimes it would be called tempered optimism. So it is having a fundamentally optimistic mindset, but rooted in reality. So you are not in any form of denial about what's going on. You're being realistic about the scale of what you're facing, but you are holding on to the attitude that your own actions can make a difference, and you're maybe proactively reminding yourself about times that you've been successful in the past or things that are still good in your life. So some of the research by Sean Accor that I shared well, actually, the first thing was I shared what stress does to your brain and how stress closes down your ability to think. Actually, because part of the purpose of stress is to stop us from thinking and to make it more likely that we'll just act without thinking. So to kind of slightly redress that balance, you need to be a bit more actively optimistic. And some of these statistics that these are not mine, these are from the research from Sean Achor, Achor, at Harvard. His book is called The Happiness Advantage. These are some of these statistics that he's quoting in the Harvard Business Review podcast that I found. If you can get yourself in a state that you are feeling, oh goodness, right, I've just seen loads of comments come through that I didn't see at the time, that you're feeling both realistic and optimistic. There's a piece of research that says doctors perform their diagnoses 50% faster with 3 times more intellectual flexibility. If you take an intelligence test, you are likely to outperform your own brain, like outperform your own results if you're feeling slightly positive as opposed to feeling slightly negative. And with children as young as 4, there was a piece of research that split them into 2 different groups, slightly primed one group to feel more positive. They put their blocks together up to 50% faster and more accurately than the children who were left in a neutral state. They didn't deliberately set out to make 4-year-olds feel negative, which is a relief. So who else have we got? Cleaning by Janine joined. Akash, Marvellous Midlife. She's almost qualified as a meditation teacher. Oh, that's nice. Somebody's complimenting me and saying, anyway. Solange, I think about death daily. Yeah. Marvellous Midlife says, yes, it's all a process. Etc., etc. Deb Mack, hello, familiar. Janine Ganem, actually, let me know where you're joining from. That's always so interesting. One Pearl Row Explore, I set up an online learning platform in lockdown 1. It's still a work in progress. Well, that's amazing. I know how much effort that stuff takes because I think I've mentioned I'm running my second iteration of my Writing Back to Happiness online program. And in fact, I should have mentioned this, I will be setting up an online learning for people at work in the new year. I'm doing that with another colleague. The Wow Journal joined. Hello. Yeah, so the program that I'm running is about positive psychology and journaling. Pocket Full of Calm is joining from London. Solange is from Essex in the UK. Lincolnshire. Faye Blakey, Glasgow, Scotland. Wendy, hi. The Gen X Women's Coach joined. Love Your Mind Online joined. Hello, everybody. So today our weekly wisdom is on the subject of what's happened for you in terms of resetting and rethinking your working life this year. Because I did a workshop for the Society of Authors on this topic today, and it's all fresh in my mind. I've started out by talking about realistic optimism, being realistic but also optimistic about the idea. The Wow Journal, great, we're based in the UK, encouraging journaling for kids. That's really, really handy. Yes, that's so interesting. I've never did that with my kids. So respect, thank you. Cracking on. So keep slightly losing track. Hope and optimism, teaching hope and optimism. I did a qualification in that some years ago as well. Herminia Ibarra, my main gal when it comes to career transition. She has written a piece which is on her website, herminiaibarra.com, and that is HerminiaIbarra.com. She's written an article about reinventing your career in these weird times. These are her 5 tips. She talked about having the capacity, the mental agility to develop many possible selves, not be committed to clinging to the one identity. And if I think about all the different identities I've had, I've been a radio journalist, I've been worked in TV, I've worked in corporate public affairs. I had this whole kind of corporate life. I've been a professional networker. I have worked in politics, as in supporting other women into politics, for 40 years. I'm doing a workshop on that next Tuesday. Have a look for that. If you're interested, message me and I'll give you the details. What else have I done? Edited a magazine, written for newspapers, currently writing for a magazine, doing this one-to-one coaching, doing the public speaking. So many different possible selves. I can actually say I'm an entrepreneur. I've done quite a bit of startup. Anyway, the idea of many possible selves, not getting committed to one identity. She also talks about being able to, having the courage really to embrace what is known as the liminal period. That's a word I love, actually. It's quite an obscure, sort of jargony word, but I was reading some detective novels earlier this year where she talked about the liminal space, and that was in between the sea and the land, where it's kind of marshy, and sometimes it's land and sometimes it's underwater. So that's the idea of the liminal space, where you're in between identities. I'm not sure if I might have to go and open the front door to people. So I don't know if you could hear that. I'm in Berlin. I think people are tied up with bath time. Buzzer. Right. Liminal space. And the metaphor that I was using is... One Pearl Rose says, love this, so inspiring, love the idea of the liminal space. Yeah, the liminal space is really messy, and it does take a lot of courage to allow yourself to stay in it. And the metaphor that I use is about the butterfly in transition from a caterpillar into a butterfly. If you opened up the cocoon, it's just caterpillar soup in there basically, but it's a necessary stage on the way to being a butterfly. Pardon me. And I'm sure that many of us have had times this year where we felt like the inside of our head was caterpillar soup. But I'm just going to read you this from Herminia Ibarra's research. This embrace the liminal. Somebody saying useful for helping people going through redundancy. Definitely. Embracing this liminal time is backed by neurological studies which suggest that taking advantage of liminal time to do the inner business may be more beneficial than engaging in a flurry of busy-making self-improvement efforts. I'm not going to disrespect self-improvement, but there is a level in which you've just got to embrace the chaos. Downtime is crucial not only for replenishing the brain's stores of attention and motivation, but also for sustaining the cognitive processes that allow us to fully develop our humanity. It's that kind of thing. That's why I love Herminia Ibarra. Isn't that great? She also talks about the value of projects. And Jenny from meditationcourses.co.uk says, I love that. What the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the master calls the butterfly. Yeah. Yeah. So get going on projects is good, because the point of doing projects at the moment is not just to keep busy, but to be experimental. So the idea that you are trying things out, not just thinking about them, it's really, Meditation Courses says that's a saying by Richard Bach. Yeah, the what the caterpillar thinks is the end of the world. That saying, yeah, the master calls the butterfly. Yeah. So project thing is really important because it's, well, sometimes just on a really practical level, doing something with your hands is good for freeing up your brain. You think differently, but designing kind of experiments. Pocketful of Calm says, I struggle with staying motivated. I'm going to put my finger on the place that I'm up to and talk about motivation because motivation, there's two things I'd say about motivation. If it is procrastination, often that is a bit of fear. And if you can name what the fear is, that can help you with procrastination and motivation. I don't believe in being mean to yourself to get motivated. I just don't think that works. And then the other tip that I would have about motivation, which might bring me, I've lost count of how many there are. One is setting a timer, saying to yourself, I'll just do 10 minutes on this. I'll just do 15 minutes on this. And then by the time you get into it, you've started. And the other is to talk to somebody else about it, which is another one of Herminia Ibarra's tips. Get it out of your head. That's sometimes the most constructive thing you can do with procrastination, is just when you talk about it, you'll get fed up with hearing yourself talk about it and you'll probably just crack on. Mantanata, sorry, sorry if I've butchered the pronunciation, is waving. Hello. So, Herminia Ibarra, 5 tips. Develop many possible selves. Embrace the liminal, messy period in between. Don't rush through it. Get going on projects just so that you're being experimental, not keeping it all in your head. I'm going to come back to this one, which is work your dormant ties and talk it out, which is Pocketful of Calm says, thank you. You're very welcome. So many of us do hope that prolonged introspection is going to have this magical effect, the kind of flash of blinding insight. But unfortunately, solitary, these are Herminia Ibarra's words, that's why I'm looking down, solitary introspection, when not coupled with action and experimentation, can lead us to getting stuck and just going round and round inside our own heads. So talk it out, talk to somebody, because practicing telling your story, practicing saying out loud what you're thinking about, that rehearsing that story helps you to kind of get a handle on how realistic you're being. And Manta Nanta says, hi, I'm always excited to read Psychologies magazine. Thank you, I am too. I've been a fan of it since before I was writing for it, so join my club. Thank you, I'm delighted to hear it. The main thing I talked about today with the Society of Authors gig was the work your dormant ties. Your dormant ties within your network of people that you're connected to. Debbie says, I get stuck like this, introspect a lot, but the action gets stumped by procrastination. Okay, so you're finding that you find it difficult to get going. I think instead of calling it procrastination, call it fear. And if you can name what the fear is, there's 2 ways to get around fear. One is naming it and the other is connecting to somebody else. So telling somebody else about your fear. Telling somebody who cares about you, somebody who always helps you feel good about your fear. There's nothing more magic than that. Talking about your dormant ties within your network. What that means is people that you have been close to once, but for whatever reason, maybe you're not physically in the same workspace or environment. You are not as connected with them as you once were. But they are easier for you to connect with than people that you have completely lost touch with, because you've already got some trust and a shared perspective in place. And that kind of quick catch up with somebody who you have been close to can be just a quick thing. It's quite an efficient use of your time. And the other thing is, in that period of time that you've lost touch with them, they've gone on and they've got new perspectives and information, and that's very valuable to you. Plus, your new perspectives are valuable to them. So you can have this feeling of you're giving an exchange of value. And when people feel reluctant to do networking, it's often because they feel it's too much of taking. But if you're reconnecting with your dormant ties, you can have more of a kind of give and take feeling. What else did we say? Yeah, so the overriding phrase that Herminia Ibarra talks about is adults need to act their way into a new way of thinking, that not think their way into a new way of acting. That just doesn't tend to work. Anna is saying, aha, never thought of fear when procrastinating. Thank you. There's a load of stuff that we use different labels, but I think it's fundamentally fear. And the chief ones that I would think of would be procrastinating and anxiety. Anxiety is just fear. It's just what we call our fear. And it's fear of something that hasn't happened yet, usually. Say no to neurophobia says great advice. Oh, thank you. Marvelous Midlife says, oh, I like that. Good. Thank you very much. So what are we looking about? Yeah. Also, generally, I'm wanting to help people with their attitude to networking, because networking gets a bad rap. But networking is nothing more or less than the web of our social relationships, which are really, really important. Our social relationships are so important to our physical health, to our mental health, to our ability to get anything done. And when we are thinking about new work, for example, we often turn first to those people that we're closest to, which is really understandable. But the slight problem with that is that the people that we're closest to tend to have the same point of view as we do. They are people, that so left to our own devices, we form and maintain relationships with people who are very similar to us. Aiden is asking, where do I live? I normally live in the UK. I'm originally from New Zealand, but at the moment I'm in Berlin. But normally I live in Surrey in the UK. So the problem with turning to our immediate, close personal network if we're looking for new work is there's a few layers. One is they're seeing all the same stuff as us. The other is, maybe some of you have experienced this, the people who are closest to you might be kind of unconscious brakes, as in, the brakes in a car, on our change, because our change is a bit of a challenge sometimes to the people who are closest to us. It might frighten them. It might give them the feeling that they should be changing too and they don't like it. So the people who are closest to you might not be the people who support you changing into a new direction. A few kind of other tips about networking. Just bear in mind, this is not some evil art. This is making social connections, which are really important. And there's, we do have different types of relationships with different people at different times, and that is just normal. People move in and out of kind of closeness. Sometimes we're feeling a bit more distant, and sometimes we're closer. My Instagram handle is at Mary the Fenwick. So do follow me. I will put it in the thingy. I always do at the end. At Mary the Fenwick. So, if we're wanting to develop new directions, it's the people who might be our weak links in our network, or our dormant social ties are really helpful if we're trying to head in a new direction. I think I've remembered most of this. And then the final thing that I shared today, which some of you will have heard me talk about before, is the power of positive emotion, which loops us back into the rational optimism, realistic optimism, tempered optimism. It's having a bit of an optimistic bias in your view of the world. The positive emotions, I'm not, by the way, talking about positive thinking. I'm not saying pretend to feel more optimistic than you do. I'm saying look for opportunities to genuinely feel these emotions of joy, love, connection, interest, serenity, or as a favourite of mine, AWE, having that feeling of, oh wow, like when you go into a forest space, for example, or a cathedral, that tends to be big spaces that give us a new perspective. Every time we have to look at full of water, a big space of water gives you that feeling of awe and uplift as well. And on a neurological level, what is happening with those positive emotions is, in the words of the key researcher, Barbara Fredrickson, what's happening is broaden and build. Positive emotions mean that we have the capacity to see more possibilities and to build our own resilience and our own faith in ourselves. So just to go quite quickly through the 7 things that I shared with my workshop today and I'm sharing with you now to help with your reset and reframe. Kalila says, I turned atheist. I'm tied up to a religious family. I've been married for 37 years. I'm no more okay in my relationship because I live a different life now. I don't know what to do. Wow, that sounds... that is very tough. I would say that that is a situation where you are going to need support outside of your immediate circle before you have the strength to do anything closer to home. So I am not sure what religion you are talking about, and I'm not sure if you have the freedom or the option to do this, but I would start by looking for other people who have left that religion and connect with them, and I'd be pretty convinced that they would want to support you. The only slight connection I have with this is a friend of mine decided to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses and she found it so difficult. I don't want to put you off. I want to be realistic. She needed a lot of support and she needed to find people who were already living the new life that she wanted, because it wasn't possible for her from her old life to create the vision that she needed to create the new one. So that would be the first step, is to connect with people who are already on some level living the life that you want to be living outside that religion, because that's where you will initially get some support. Have I talked about all 7? I don't think I have. Cat Vegan Runner Fundraiser, I've seen you before. Miss somebody 888, what about when you build momentum but the outside conditions are not conducive? Restarting is more difficult. I think you might have missed the bit where I was talking about embracing the chaos. Cat Vegan Fundraiser says, my eyebrows are still amazing. I found a place here in Berlin. They're not open at the moment, but they're called Brows by Mary. They're my place. Let's have a look. Awe is such a positive, admiring awe. Yeah. I'm going to wrap this up soon because, as I said, I've been awake since 4 a.m. and I'm just about to. I need to stop. The things that I was talking about that will stand you in good stead if you are thinking about making a change to your working life at the moment. Having an attitude of rational optimism, which is rooted in reality, rooted in being realistic, but retaining the belief that you can create change for yourself. So start with rational optimism. Have a look for the writing by Herminia Ibarra, Ibarra. Have a look for her website and her writing and research on what works for career transition. Cat Vegan Runner Fundraiser says, I used to live in Berlin, it's a fabulous place. Marie Shields, can I talk more about the point you hit on about acting on change? Okay, yep, I'll come back. I'll talk a bit more about that. That is a big thing for Herminia Ibarra, the taking action, not just getting stuck in your head. Her 5 things, there's an article on her website about this, career transition in a time of coronavirus. And they are, I've got my script from today's workshop, flicking back through that. Develop many possible selves. Accept and embrace the fact that you have many possible selves. Embrace the liminal period. That is the period when you're moving from one state into the next. Don't rush through that. It's really normal and natural to want to rush through that. It's really uncomfortable. But there is important inner work that you need to do in that period of time. And this is what Herminia Ibarra says about it. Downtime is crucial, not only for replenishing the brain's store of attention and motivation, but also for sustaining the cognitive processes that allow us to fully develop our humanity. Get going on projects. This is the acting. Design little mini experiments. So if I say was wanting to move into fundraising, I would talk to friends of mine who were fundraisers. I would hang out in the Facebook or the LinkedIn groups where people who are already fundraisers hang out. I'd listen to the way they talk. I'd listen to their vocabulary. I'd listen to what they say are the common problems. I'd listen to what they enjoy about their job. I'd listen to what they find is a pain about their job. So I'd be getting myself into that headspace, and if possible, I'd be saying to them, could I come on one of the seminars that you're going to? What workshops do you recommend I come to? Where can I hear people talk about fundraising? So you design tiny practical steps that you can take. Don't get stuck in your head. Jenny says, thank you for sharing. Best wishes. Have a great rest of your week. Jen's going to look up that website now. One Pearl Row Explorer says, thanks for such an inspiring live. I don't know, what is the key to being successful in life? The key to being successful in life, according to the longest ever study on this, which is called the Harvard Longitudinal Study. It's been going since 1938. The key to being successful is having good relationships with people. It's as simple as that. It is good for your physical health, your mental health, and your overall life satisfaction. Thank you. Advice is always spot on. I've recommended you to friends here in Glasgow. So grateful for your live videos. Thank you so much. Got to run, well, journal, interesting talk. Enjoy your sleep bit. That helps everything too. Definitely. Psychologies magazine. I've got a few articles I'd like to submit for possible publishing. Which is the best email I might be able to send? It's such a great magazine. Lucy, the person who gets the features editor is called Lizzie Heathcote, Heathcote. Sorry, I haven't got the actual address off the top of my head. I think you'll find the kind of format for the addresses somewhere on the website. Connect with Lizzie. Actually, connect with Lizzie somewhere else maybe, and message her and ask her how to submit. Don't get your hopes up, because unfortunately, budgets are tight. A lot of materials generated in the house with Psychologies, I do know, but yeah. Definitely get in touch with Lizzie Heathcote, the features editor, or Susie Walker, the overall editor. Thank you, Lizzie Heathcote. Yes, that's it. Yep, you've got the spelling right. So I think I got up to get going on projects from Herminia Ibarra. Work your dormant ties. Those are the people within your network who you have been close to once, but you've just sort of lost touch. They can be quick and easy wins because you already have some shared perspective and trust, and you have got new information to give them and they've got new information to give you. So it's not that it's much easier than establishing a new relationship, and they can be really valuable if you're trying to make a change. And talk it out. If you're trying to make a change, talk to people about it, because in the rehearsing your story, you will kind of listen to yourself and you'll notice what you feel confident about, what you're not so confident or clear about, what's working and what's not. So this is Herminia Ibarra's works. Just the simple act of creating and telling a story about what you want to do or why you want a change can clarify your thinking and propel you forward by committing you publicly to making a change. Any veteran storyteller will tell you that there's no substitute for practicing in front of a live audience. And my final tip was to do with the power of positive emotion. And that is the work of Barbara Fredrickson, Broaden and Build. It is so worth investing in these small moments of joy, serenity, connection with other people, love, awe. We've talked about AWE, interest, gratitude is another really big one. All of those positive emotions, they broaden the range of possibilities that you can see in your life. Pride is another really interesting one. In the sort of Christian Western tradition, we think of pride as a negative, but pride has a positive function in that it motivates us to share good news and inspires us to achieve more when we hear the good news from other people. I'm going to go. Great to see you, and I will be back next week. See you then. I'm at Mary the Fenwick, and if you want to get a hard copy of Psychologies magazine, have a look for the link in the bio.